Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new YouTube video. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to create a group video calling web application using React and using an awesome platform called Agora. So that's Agora.io. I'll be discussing that more in this video. Anyways, I'm sorry if my faces are freaking you out here. Just wanted to give you a quick demo of what this application is going to look like. You can see here that we can stop the camera. We can start or stop the microphone. I'm not going to do that because it's going to echo a bunch of times. And yeah, that's kind of how this works. I'm going to keep it pretty simple with the UI. I'm just going to show you how to set up this grid system, how to get everything connected, how to allow video streams to be sent between obviously different machines or different computers. I'm also going to show you how you can host this on the web, not permanently, but temporarily so you can test it out. You can see here I'm connected to an actual URL. If someone that was not on my local network typed in this URL, they would be able to join this group video call. So theoretically, you can use this with anyone who has access to the link that I'm going to show you how to set up. Again, all of this is free. I hope you guys are excited. Now let me get all my faces off of the screen and we'll dive in. All right, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that demo there and are excited to get started. This is a really cool application that we're going to be creating. And the first thing I will mention is that although this does look really complicated, right? Creating a group video calling application, this actually is not that difficult to do. There are quite a few steps in this tutorial, but none of them are extremely challenging or difficult to follow along with. However, I will mention that it's probably a good idea that you have some familiarity with React, with JavaScript, and just with programming in general to follow along with this. I'm not designing this for absolute beginners. You should have a little bit of experience doing this. And at the end of this tutorial, you will have a really good kind of starting place for a group video calling application that you can then go extend, work on, implement in other projects, whatever it is you may want to do. Now, I do need to mention that this video is sponsored by Agora. Agora is the platform we are going to use to implement this video calling, and they make it super simple to do this. So you're thinking of a group video calling application. This seems like a really complicated thing, but it's actually not that hard to do because of the work that a lot of talented developers at Agora have done. So you can see that Agora is the real-time engagement platform for meaningful human connections. And although we'll be using it to create a group video calling app, you can do voice calls on it. You can record your calls. You can have real-time messaging. You can do live streaming. You can do analytics. There's a ton of stuff that you can do here with Agora, and what I'm going to show you in this tutorial doesn't even scratch the surface of what is possible, but hopefully it will give you an idea of kind of how to get started using this platform and this technology. So just to give you a few more examples of things that you can create with Agora that are actually concrete, real applications, I have the following list. You could create online yoga classes with AI for form correction of participants. You could create a speed dating video chat application. You could create VR DJ classes. You can make an online poker with video chat. That would be cool. So you could actually see people's faces when you're playing. There's all kinds of applications you can create with Agora. And as I was mentioning, we're really just scratching the surface of what's possible in this video. Now, I believe I mentioned this a few times now, but this is free. You do not need to pay for this. The first 10,000 hours you use of video calling is completely free. And as you can see here, Agora powers an average of over 50 billion minutes of human connections per month. Anyways, that's all I really need to mention about this platform. Obviously, we're going to be using it throughout this entire video to actually implement this. And the first thing we're going to do here to get started is we're going to press Start Building Today on the Agora website. I will link the website in the description, but this is the link right here. And then this will bring you to a page where you're asked to create an account. Now you can see I'm brought right here into this kind of console or dashboard just because I've already created my account, but please go create your account first. And then what we're going to need to do is create an Agora project. All right, so once you have created your account, what you're going to do is go over to project management, and then you are going to press create. So project management in kind of the left bar here, you can see I already have a project that I was working on previously, but what we'll do is press create. We're going to give this a name. So the name I will give for this project will just be React. And then this will be video calling, if I could spell calling correctly, app. And I'm going to press the secure mode app ID plus token. Now you'll see why we're using this mode in a minute. We could use just the app ID mode. Essentially what you're selecting here is the way you want to authenticate your users with Agora. It's recommended that you use the secure mode. That's what we'll use, but we're going to be using what's known as a temporary token to do this. So we won't have to deal with all this really complicated authentication that if you were actually going to deploy this to be a real live application, you would definitely want to look at. Anyways, let's just press submit here. Oh, it says my project name already exists. Okay, I think I might have created one previously. Anyways, let me just change this now. Instead of saying React, we can change this to say group. So group video calling app. All right, so now I've created this project. What we're going to do is set up our development environment. So as I was saying, we are going to be using React, but specifically the code editor I'm going to use for this video is Visual Studio Code. So you can download that if you want. You can use whatever editor, doesn't matter. I just prefer VS Code. We're also going to need Node.js. So this will allow us to use NPM and, work with our React development server and all of that. So download Node.js. All these links will be in the description. And then finally, we're going to use this thing called nrgok. You can download it right now, but when we get to that step, I'll remind you. And again, this link will be in the description. What nrgok will allow us to do is actually have a temporary public URL that we can test our website on. So you saw in that demo, I was on my phone, I was on my iPad. Well, what we can do is actually set up this public URL that anyone around the world can use to kind of test out our application. Now, this URL will actually expire after about 2 hours, but this will allow people that are not on your current local area network to access your development server without you having to go through all of the tedious steps of actually deploying this out to AWS or whatever that may be. Anyways, nrgok is really cool. You'll see how that works much later in the video. Okay, so once we've done all of that, what we're going to do is we're going to open up Visual Studio Code and we're going to create a new folder wherever you want that's going to store our application. So let me open VS Code here. All right, so VS Code is now loaded. I'm going to go to the Explorer tab right here. I'm going to press Open Folder, but I also go to File and then Open Folder. And then in my kind of Windows Explorer here, what I'm going to do is go to my desktop, go to my folder called Agora. You can see I have a folder here already that I was using for kind of the demo that I showed you. So I'm going to make a new folder. I will call this tutorial. And then inside of here is where I will actually put my React application. Okay, so we're now inside of this tutorial folder. What I'm going to do now is open up my VS Code terminal. I did that by just scrolling up from the bottom of the screen. And I'm going to use the npx create and then React app command to actually create a sample or kind of starter React application, so we don't have to go through that tedious process of setting up the servers and the scripts and all of that annoying stuff that we shouldn't have to do. Now, you're only able to use this command if you've installed Node.js, so make sure Node.js is on your system first. And if for some reason it's not working, you need to make sure that Node.js is in your system path so that you can run the command npx and npm and hopefully the command yarn as well, which you'll see in a minute. Anyways, let's make this full screen and let's now type npx create React app followed by the name of your React application. So what I'm going to put my name as is actually, let's just go group video calling app. Okay, I'm going to press enter and then it should start generating a folder here inside of this tutorial folder that's going to have all of our React kind of starter code. Now, we're not going to need all of the code that's in here. So after this is done, we're going to clean up a bunch of stuff, delete a bunch of files. And then hopefully by the time that's finished, our Agora application will be synced and we'll be ready to set up our tokens and authentication and all of that stuff that we need. All right, so you can see we have now initialized our React application. We have some folder, group video calling app. I'm just going to go through a few of the files here, briefly discuss what they are, and then delete a bunch of the ones that we don't need. So first of all, just make sure that if you want to start this dev server, you are in the directory called group video calling app. So I'm not going to explain really how to navigate directories and stuff in Windows, but you can use cd and then group video calling app. You can see that now I'm in the correct path, and well, now I would be able to start my development server. It shows you the instructions right here, but just wanted to quickly mention that. Anyways, inside of this folder, you see we have our node modules, our public folder, and our src folder. The rest of the files you don't really need to concern yourself with. The node modules folder is what's going to store all of our dependencies for the project. The public folder stores some, public stuff. I mean, that's the extent of the explanation I will get into. And what we're actually going to start by doing is deleting a few files that we don't need. So we're going to delete these two logos here, delete both that, 192 and 512. We're then going to go in our manifest and see how in the manifest we're referencing these two files here. So logo 192 and logo 512, the ones we just deleted. We're going to delete the two references to this here. So from line 10 to line 19. All right, we're going to save that manifest. We're now going to go into index.html. We're going to remove the reference to this logo 192. So on line 12, we have this Apple touch icon thing. Just delete that. And by the way, your stuff should look identical to mine because that's what the kind of starter code template does when you run create React app. And what we can do here is we can change the title of our application if we want to. I'll just change mine and say, oops, if my cap locks is toggled correctly, group video, and then this will be calling app like that. I will now save this index.html file, and there's no more changes we need to make here unless you want to change the description of your app. Okay, so that's it for the public folder. We can leave this fave icon thing. I mean, you can delete it if you want or change it, but I won't worry about that for right now. Now we're going to go into src, and we're just going to delete a bunch of files. I won't really explain why we're deleting them, but essentially we just don't need them. There's a bunch of junk that comes with this that we can delete. So we're going to delete app.css, app.test.js, logo.svg, report web vitals, and setup tests. So I'm going to select all of those, delete them, and there you go. We are good. All right, now what we're going to do is just go inside of these 3 files here and do a few minor modifications. So I'm going to go inside of index.css first, and all I'm going to do is delete this margin :0. This means that now we will have a margin around some of the tags, specifically our body tag, and so all of our content will no longer be kind of hugging the border. It will be slightly offset, and it just looks a little bit nicer. So I'm removing that margin, and then you could remove this if you want as well, but I'll just leave this here because it makes our font look a bit nicer in our, what do you call it, application or on our screen. Okay, so let's delete that, or not delete that, close that. Now I'm going to go to index.js. I'm going to remove the reference or the call to web vitals here. I'm going to remove the import of web vitals, and I think that's all I need to do in this file. Okay, so I'm going to save index.js. Your index.js should look like this now. I'm going to go to app.js, and what I'm going to do is remove both of these imports because we've deleted these files that we're trying to import, and now I'm going to delete everything inside of here except for this div. So this is what your app.js should look like. I mean, you could delete the entire thing and type this out if you want, but yeah, not a big deal. And also I should mention that all of the code that I write here will be linked in the description via a GitHub repository. So if for some reason I'm going too fast or you missed something or you just want to copy the code, you can go to that GitHub repository and have a look at it. Okay, so there we are. Gonna close these files now, and that's all we kind of need to do to actually clean up our React app. Now what we can do is run this React application and make sure that it is working. So what you're going to do is make sure you're in that correct directory, so group video calling app, and you're going to run the command yarn start. Now for some reason yarn start doesn't work for you, just run the command npm start. They do the same thing. I'm not really going to explain the difference between npm and yarn. But yeah, just run yarn start or npm start, depending on which one works for you. And then give it a second. It's going to start running a development server, and it should automatically open in Google Chrome or whatever your default browser is, the actual localhost :3000, which is going to be the URL of your video calling app. So you can see here the title of this tab is group video calling app. That means this is indeed working. We can right click here, press inspect. We can view, the console and all of the details, see how there's no errors here. That's good. That means our React app is now working. All right, so that's all I need to show you in terms of the setup of the React application. Obviously, we're going to be putting some content on the screen. For now, it's blank, but I'll close that. And now we're going to go back to our Agora kind of dashboard here. And we're going to set up a temporary token that we can use for authentication. Looks like we are good to go. You can see there's actually a web demo. And so if you press on this web demo, it will open up this thing. It says, Rasika, my last name, invites you to join a video call. You could press join channel, and then you can see my webcam is popping up here. Anyways, you can have a look at this demo if you want. I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do, though, is go here and press temp token for audio/video call. So this thing that looks like a key, press on that. It's going to bring you to this thing. It says app ID, app secret, and channel name. And what you're going to do is type in the name of the channel that you want to use for users to connect to and chat with each other. So in Agora, you have these different channels. Now, a channel you can think of as kind of a room where users can join in there and chat with each other. So you can name this channel whatever you want. I'll just name this channel main, and you can make as many channels as you want that will have different tokens associated with them. So I have my channel name main. Then what I'm going to do is generate my temporary token like that. You can see it expires at 12:24 a.m. I think it expires 4 hours after you create it, because for me right now it's 8:24 p.m. And anyways, you can copy this token, but we'll use it in 1 minute. Okay, so now we have our token generated. What we're going to do is go back to our React app, and we're going to create a few files. We're going to go inside of src. This is where all of our source code is going to be. This is really where all of the files that we're going to be working with are from now on, so you don't need to worry about the rest of the files or folders. But what we're going to do inside of here is we're going to create a file. We're going to call this file settings.py, or sorry, not py.js. I'm used to my Python coding. And inside of here, we're going to put a few pieces of information that we need to kind of initialize our Agora application, or initialize our Agora API, connection, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so inside of here, what we need to do is define two variables. The first variable that we're going to have is our app ID. So we're going to say const app ID, and this is going to be equal to a string. And then what we're going to do is go back to our Agora app here, or Agora dashboard, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to copy this app ID. So copy the app ID, come here, paste it inside of this variable. Obviously, make sure it's all on one line. All right, the next thing we want here is our token. So we're going to say const token is equal to, and then you guessed it, we're going to go here to Agora and we're going to copy this token. All right, so copy the token, paste it in there. That's all good. And now we will continue. All right, so now that we have these two pieces of information that we need, the app ID and the token, we're going to install a few dependencies that we need in our React application. So what I've just done is I've stopped my development server. I did that by pressing Control-C, and now we need to install 3 NPM packages, actually. So the first thing we're going to install is Material UI. This is just a component library that's going to make it so our app looks a little bit nicer. We can style things, have a nice grid to lay out stuff in. And anyways, the way we do this is we say npm install and then app material -UI/core. All right, so we're going to install that. This will take a second to install. Once it will be back, I will show you the next two things we need to install. All right, so Material UI core has now been installed. Now what we're going to do is install Material UI/lab. So run that command, same thing. Once this is done, I'll be back for our last dependency. All right, so now we've installed all of the stuff we need related to Material UI. The next thing that we need to install is the Agora SDK. So there's a lot of different ways that you can go about doing this. And I'm just going to quickly show you actually how you would do this for a different project if you weren't going to do this in React. So if you go here to Agora and you go to developers and we go to documentation. So I'm here in the documentation and I'm going to show you how we can download and use the Agora SDK. So we're going to go to the downloads tab right here. It's going to bring us to this page. And the first thing I want you to notice that Agora is available for all kinds of different platforms. So in this case, we can see Android, iOS, Mac, web, Windows, Electron, Unity, Flutter, so on and so forth, a ton of different platforms that you can use Agora on. And if you look here, we have the voice SDK, the video SDK, this is the older web SDK, real-time messaging SDK, all kinds of different SDKs that we can use. And the one we're actually going to be using is the web SDK. So we want, sorry, not the voice SDK, we want the video SDK for the web. So we would click on this one right here, and this would actually download the entire folder. Now for the web SDK, we don't need to download the entire folder. We could actually use a CDN, which is just a link that we could include in our HTML file. But in our case, instead of that, we're actually going to be using a React wrapper for Agora. So I'll show you that in 1 second, but I do want to mention that for all of these different SDKs and platforms, there's all kinds of tutorials on the Agora website and sample applications. So check those out if you're trying to do this on a different platform. But as I mentioned, we're going to use the React wrapper. So let's go to that now. So this is a wrapper that's created by the Agora IO community. So this is an open source wrapper. And what this actually does is just make our life easier. So it has all of the Agora SDK in it. And then it comes with a few hooks for React that we can use. If you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. We'll look at those later, and just kind of simplifies the SDK for us and wraps a bunch of these functions. So you can see right here, it's showing us the usage, way simpler than if we were to actually try to, bring in the SDK ourselves and then work with all those functions. That still is not super complicated, but just trust me here. This is good to use. So what we're going to do is install this wrapper. And again, this wrapper will have all of this stuff with the Agora SDK. All it's kind of doing is just wrapping some of these functions and just making them a little bit simpler for us to use specifically in React. Again, if you were not going to use this in React, if you were going to use this somewhere else, there's all kinds of tutorials on the Agora website. It is pretty intuitive and simple to do. But I found as I was experimenting with this, that this wrapper is just going to make our life a bit easier. And so we're going to go ahead and use this wrapper. All right, so I'll leave this link in the description. But what we're going to need to do to install this wrapper is we're going to go here to our console. And we're going to say npm install. And actually, I'm just going to paste in this command because I have it copied to my clipboard. Npm install and then git :// and then the link to that repository that I just showed you. But this is going to be a little bit different. So I'll leave this line in the description. Of course, you can also just type it out here. It'll be on the screen for long enough. You could pause the video. But again, this will be in the description. Type this in. Press enter, and then it's going to install a bunch of stuff. Now, this will probably take a few minutes to run just because there's a ton of modules. This is installing the entire Agora SDK and then a few other things as well. So once this is done, I will be right back. All right, so now everything is installed. Our dev environment is set up. we have our tokens, we've set up our Agora project, we understand briefly what Agora does. Now we can start actually writing some of our React code and setting up this application. Now this part's not too complicated, but we will have to create a few different components, have some buttons like turning off the camera, turning on the microphone, all of that kind of stuff. And well, anyways, we're going to get started here in settings.js. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to initialize our kind of Agora application. So we're going to set up a configuration, and we're just going to create what's known as a hook so that anywhere in our React application, we're able to access this client object that we need. I understand this might seem a little bit confusing if any of you are relatively beginner in React or in just programming in general, but just follow along and it will start to all come together. So we're going to say import, and then what we're going to import is create client and create, and then this is going to be microphone and camera tracks like that. And this is going to be from, and this is Agora -RTC. And I have to spell Agora correctly, obviously, Agora -RTC -React. Now let me make sure I spelled this correctly. Microphone and camera tracks, looks like that is correct. Okay, so we've now imported these two things that we need from Agora RTX React. Okay, what we're going to do next here is we are going to export three variables. We're going to say export const, and then we're going to create a config variable. Now this is going to store the configuration for our Agora application. So we're going to say mode is equal to RTC. I believe this stands for real-time communication. You can also set the mode to like a live stream mode. You'd have to look at the Agora documentation to see all of the different stuff for this config. I'll just tell you what the ones are that we're using here. The next thing we need is the codec. So this is what we're using to actually encode our video. We're going to use VP8. Now, small note here, if for some reason you're using a really old version of Safari or Internet Explorer or something, you probably want to use H.264. I believe the codec here is .h264. If that doesn't work, I think you can type in just H.264. Anyways, VP8 is what we're going to use. If you don't know what that is, don't worry. It's just kind of the algorithm that's used to actually encode the video that's going to be displayed. We then need to pass our app ID. So we're going to pass the app ID equal to the app ID, the variable we have up here. And then we need the token. So we're going to say token : token. Okay, so we now have our config. Next, what we're going to do is say export const, and then this is going to be use client, and this is going to be equal to that create client function there that we imported, and we're going to pass inside of here config. So we're going to create an Agora client using the configuration that we just defined up here. Next, what we're going to do is say export const, and this is going to be use microphone and camera tracks like that. And then this is equal to create microphone and camera tracks. And we're just going to call that function. So what these two things actually are right here are hooks. Now, if you're unfamiliar with hooks, essentially these are functions that we can call to get access to something. Now, that's a really poor explanation of what a hook actually is, but for our context right here, what we're defining is this use client and this use microphone and camera tracks hook. And so we're going to be able to actually use these hooks from any component that we want to get access to the client and get access to the microphone and camera tracks. Now, this is important because we need access to both of these things from a bunch of different files. So rather than passing them through the props of all of our React components or, kind of messily handling them around and throwing them around our program, we put them in one file, the settings.js file, and then we can access them whenever we want. You'll see how we use them, obviously, as we start using different components, but understand that's the point of this settings.py file. So now we can access the config, the use client, and the use microphone and camera tracks from any component without having to kind of pass them around through props and all of that messy stuff we'd normally have to do. Okay, we're done with settings.js. Now we don't need to look at that anymore unless something doesn't work. What we're going to do now is go into app.js. All right, so I'm actually going to stop here for a second and just backtrack a bit. I realized that the order I was about to go in for creating stuff doesn't really make much sense, so let's do it in the proper order. Actually, what I'm going to do here is go to settings.js to start. I'm going to export one more thing. So I lied. We are going to need to touch this file again. I'm going to export const. I'm going to export the channel name. So I'm going to say channel name is equal to, and then this is going to be the name of the channel that we set up, which in this case is main. So the reason why I'm doing this is because I realized that I forgot to mention this token here is associated with this channel main. So if we go back here, we go to Agora, we go to token, you can see that we have our channel name, main, we have our app ID, and we have our temporary token. So as I was saying, this token only allows you to join the main channel. So it doesn't make sense for us to maybe say, ask the user to type in a channel, because if we're hard coding our token, then we need to hard code the channel the users are going to join in. So what's going to happen when we load our app is users are automatically going to be put in the main channel. There won't be a choice. They'll just go right into one channel. But if you wanted to allow users to join different channels, what you would need to do is make different channels here in this console. There's also a way to do it from code, but I'm not going to explain that. It's a little bit beyond the scope of this tutorial. And then you would ask the user to type in the token and the channel that they want to join once you've created different channels here, right? So you would say, okay, type in the channel name, type in the token, and assuming that token is associated with the channel, they would be able to join. Hopefully that makes sense, but just understand that, again, this token only works for this channel. And so we'll have one channel. Anyone who kind of goes to our application will just automatically be brought into that channel. So now that we understand that, let me close this. I don't know why getignore is open. What we can do is we can just set a few things here in app.js. So I'm going to go to app and I'm going to import useState from React. All right, so we've got useState now. And if you're looking at useState and you're like, I don't know what this is, I'm going to highly recommend that you go and brush up on your React, maybe watch a React tutorial, because this is probably going to be very difficult to follow along with if you're not familiar with something as basic in React as something like useState. So not to discourage you, I just want to make sure I don't waste anybody's time. If you are a beginner, please go brush up on React. Make sure you're familiar with some of these things because I can't really explain them in this tutorial. Okay, so we've got useState, and what I want to do here is just set one piece of state that tells me whether or not my user is in a call already. Now, we're going to try to just automatically join the user into a call as soon as they come to our web page, but we might not be in there immediately. And so we need a piece of state that's telling us, are we in the call or are we kind of waiting to join it? So we're going to say const in call and then set in call, and this will be equal to useState, and we'll set this equal to false by default. Now we're going to go inside of here, inside of our return. So this is the stuff that's actually going to show up on the screen, and we're going to check if we're in the call. So in call question mark. If we are in the call, what we'll do is just render some text that says we are in the call. Otherwise, we'll say waiting to, if we spell waiting correctly, waiting to join call. Okay, now we're going to replace this text here with the thing that's actually going to display the call. We haven't created that component yet, so let's actually go ahead and do that now. I'm going to make a new component, and I'm going to call this VideoCall. Now, this is where a lot of the logic for our program will lie. And you know what? While we're at it, let's create all of the components that we're going to need. So we need VideoCall. This will display all of the actual videos, all the video feeds. We then need our controls. So this is like, okay, we need to mute the microphone. We need to stop the camera. We need to leave the call. That's what controls are. And then finally, we need a component to actually display all of our video. So video.js. So VideoCall will render our controls and all of our videos. So video represents all the video feeds, controls is obviously the control, and then VideoCall will kind of render both of them. And before it renders them, it will make sure that we have, joined the call and all of that kind of stuff. Okay, so let's go inside of VideoCall and let's say export default, and then let's make a function and let's call this VideoCall. So just making a component. This will take in some props. And inside of here, we're going to start by just decomposing this props. So we're going to say const, and the one prop that we're actually going to get here is going to be set in call, and this will be equal to props. So if you're unfamiliar with this syntax, what this does is look at props, which is an object, grabs out the prop called set in call, then allows us to use that in here. And the idea is that we're going to kind of join the call from this component. So once we've joined, we will then use this function here to tell our app component that, hey, we are in the call. And so then it can actually render this component fully. Perfect. Okay, now what we want to do is set a few pieces of state. So to set some state, we need to import useState. So we're going to say import useState, and then this will be from React. Okay, so the pieces of state that we want, first of all, is the users. So we want to know what users are currently in our call, right? So we're going to say const users, set users is equal to, and then this will just be useState, and this will be a list or an array. All right, next, we're going to have our start state. So start, set start. This is kind of similar to in call. This is telling us if we can start our video. So we'll see how that works again in a minute, but actually we're going to set this equal to false to start. Just another variable that's kind of telling us, hey, are we ready to go? Have we initialized everything? We'll use this a little bit differently than set in call. I can't really show you how it works until we actually get into the logic of joining the call. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to import a bunch of stuff from our settings. So we're going to say import config. We're going to import our use client. We're going to import our use microphone. Come on, give me the autocomplete here so I don't have to type it all. Okay, let me just go from settings.js, and then maybe it will give me my auto completion because I don't really want to type use microphone and camera tracks. Okay, too bad I did have to type it. Did I spell this correctly? Use microphone and camera tracks. I think so. And then the last thing that we will do, actually, we don't need to import anything else from this. That's all we need. Okay, sweet. So we've got all of that. Next, we are going to say import, and we're going to import grid from, this is going to be app material-ui/core. Now, this is what we use to actually kind of lay out a few things that we need here. Okay, so now we have our state for start and for users. The next thing we need to do is grab our clients. We're going to say const client is equal to, and this will be use client. Now, notice we're actually calling this. We're calling it as if it's a function. What this is going to do is return to us the client object, which we can use to connect to the video call. Next, we're going to say const ready, and then tracks is equal to, and this will be use microphone and camera tracks. We're going to call that again, just like we called use client. And what this will give us is our audio and video track and whether or not they're ready to go, ready to be used. So when we call this, what it will try to do is initialize our audio and video track. So we have 2 tracks here. This is actually going to be a list of tracks. Again, one for audio, one for video. And then we can use these tracks, like we can disable the audio, or we can disable the video, or we can show the audio or display the video or whatever, right? And then this is telling us, hey, are we ready? And the reason we need that is because we have to get permission from the user to use their video and use their audio. This handles all of that for us. We don't have to, pop up a dialog or anything. It will automatically ask the user to allow the camera. All right, so next what we're going to do is we're going to import use effect. So essentially, as soon as we render this component, what we want to do is we want to have an effect here. And this effect is going to do all of our kind of initialization. So we're going to say use effect. This is just going to be a function. And then we are going to do this effect whenever the channel name changes, which I'm actually going to import from up here. That's the thing I was thinking about importing, but didn't. Whenever the client changes, whenever the ready variable changes, or whenever the tracks change. Okay, so if you're unfamiliar with this, when you put a list here, this says, okay, only do this effect, so only run this function when one of these things changes. So when one of these 4 values changes, then we will actually call whatever's inside of this function for use effect. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to define a variable. I'm going to say let init equal async. We're going to take in a name. This is going to be the channel name, and then this is going to point to a function. So we have an asynchronous function. Again, I can't really explain async, but this means not based on the clock tick of your computer. This has some delay, essentially. We're waiting on a network operation. And inside of here, what we need to do is we actually need to define some event listeners. So we have our client object. We have client, right? And what we do with client is we can have some different events that are going to be triggered and that we're going to listen for. So there's a bunch of different events here. I'm going to go to the Agora documentation to show you what some of these events are. So let's go to developers. Let's go to documentation, and I'll start walking you through some of the events that we want. So let's press on video call here, and let's just see, what can we look at? Maybe quick start. Okay, let's go to quick start, see what it brings us to. We're going to change the platform here to be web. All right. Okay, so let's scroll down and let's look for if there isn't a list of events. Okay, so this is actually what I want to show you. I believe this is, I think they call this a sequence diagram. I forget what this is actually called, maybe an activity diagram or something. Regardless, you can kind of see the flow of what needs to happen here. But we need to create the client, which we've already done, and then we need to initialize the client. Now, when you initialize the client, what you need to do is join a channel that sends a channel request to, this is kind of like the back end for Agora, essentially. And then after that, what's going to happen is we need to create a local stream, initialize the stream, play the stream, and publish it. So what we're going to be doing as a client is we're creating a stream of our webcam and of our audio. And then what people can do is they can they can subscribe to that stream, which means that they can access it, they can view it. So once we create the stream, we publish the stream, that's what I mean. And then that's going to send the stream data here to the SD-RTN. Then what happens is you can subscribe to a remote stream. So people can subscribe to our stream. It will then kind of add it to say their React application, their video calling app, whatever, and then they'll start seeing our video stream. And so whenever someone joins the room, we want them to automatically subscribe to all of the other users' streams, then we want those users to subscribe to their stream, right? But we need to handle different events, like what happens when someone unsubscribes from a stream, what happens when someone leaves the channel, so on and so forth. And so that's all of the events that we're going to be kind of hooking up right now. And there's a lot more events that can happen. I mean, you can read through this. The documentation is really good for this, but I will just show you the events that we need to kind of set up here. So the first event that we're going to have, so we're going to have client.on is going to be a user published a stream. So if a user has published a stream, then what we want to do is we want to call the following asynchronous function. Now this asynchronous function is going to take in a user, and it's going to take in a media type. Now the media type is going to be audio or video. So did the user publish an audio stream or a video stream? And the reason why this is kind of important here is because users can enable and disable their video streams, right? And so if a user disables their video stream, they're going to be kind of unpublishing it. Whereas if they re-enable it, they'll be publishing it. And so we need all of these events to look for all of that kind of stuff that's going to happen. I get that this is really probably confusing for a lot of you, but just bear with me and we'll get through it and you'll see how it works. Okay, so we're going to say client.on user published. We have an asynchronous function. And what we are going to do is we are going to await the following. We're going to say client.subscribe, and we're going to subscribe user and media type. So we're going to subscribe the current client to the stream that a user just published. So a user published a stream. This does not mean we are automatically subscribed to it, but now we are aware of the fact they published it. We have the user and we have the media type. Now we can subscribe to it. So that's what we're doing here. We're awaiting the fact that we subscribe to the stream. Then we need to check what type this stream was. So we're going to say, okay, if the media type is equal to video, and we should do 3 equal signs here, then what we're going to do is we're going to change some state here. So we're going to say, set the users that are in this video call. And we're going to get the previous users. So we're going to say prev users like that. We're going to have a little function that we run. And inside of here, we're going to return ... So the spread operator, prev users, and then user. So what this is doing is this is getting the previous user. So whatever was currently in the user's state, that's kind of how this works in React when you use an arrow function inside of a state, or inside of setting a state, sorry. So this gets whatever the previous state was. Then what we do is we return a new list that has all of the users that were currently there, plus the new user. That's kind of what this is doing. That's what we're returning. Okay, so that's good. Then what we're going to do after this is we're going to say if the media type is equal to audio, like that. We can make this an elif too if we want, but it's fine. We'll just leave it as an if. So if media type is equal to audio, then what we're going to do is say user dot and then audio track. So let's go audio track like that dot play. So we don't need to subscribe to the audio track because it's just kind of given us the audio track. We have the user, the audio track is associated with the user. And so we're going to start playing it in the web browser, which means now we'll be able to hear whatever the user is saying. So again, all this stuff you find from the documentation, like I said at the beginning, this video is just meant to get you up and running as fast as possible and hopefully give you, some piece of information that are useful. Okay, so we've done that. We've now done our first event. Now there's a few more events that we need to do. So the next event we're going to do here is say client.on, and we just checked if the user published an event. So what happens if the user unpublished or non-event stream, sorry. So user, and then this is unpublished like that. Now, similarly, we're going to have actually non-async function this time because we're not waiting on a network operation. We're just going to say user type is equal to, and then inside of here, we'll do kind of the same thing, except this time we're going to unsubscribe the user, right? Or we're going to, unsubscribe the user. So rather than doing type, just to keep it consistent, I'm going to say media type, and I will say if type or media type like that is equal to audio, we need 3 equal signs. So if the media type is equal to audio, then we want to stop playing the audio. So we're first going to just make sure that the audio is playing. We're going to say if the user.audio track, then what we will do here is say user.audio track and then .stop. Now, the reason we need this little if statement before is because a user could technically leave the web browser, or they could have disabled their mic. Something could happen where we didn't hit this event and the audio track has stopped playing already. And so we can't stop the audio track if it doesn't already exist. So we just need to make sure it exists before we try to do this, just to prevent any potential errors from coming. This is kind of good practice to do. Just always check if something exists before you go ahead and try to stop it or start it or whatever. Whereas here, we don't need to do that because we know if the type is audio, we're going to have an audio track, and so we can play. Okay. Otherwise, we're going to check if the type is video. So if the media type is equal to video, I always do 2 equal signs. That needs to be 3. Then we want to unsubscribe, and we also want to remove the user. So we're going to say set users like that. We're going to say prev users, and then here we're going to return. It's going to seem a little bit unnecessary, but this is the way we'll do it. Prev users dot filter. We're going to have a function here. We're going to take an uppercase user, and we're going to say if the user.uid, this is their unique identifier, I believe that's what UID stands for, does not equal user.uid, then we will go ahead and keep that in our array. Okay, so I lied here. We actually don't need to unsubscribe. I believe when a user unpublishes their video stream, you are automatically going to be unsubscribed from it because, well, there's nothing more to look at. And so you don't need to manually say unsubscribe. You can just remove this user from the user state. So keep in mind here, there's kind of 2 pieces of state, right? We have the state in our front end, which is allowing us to display all these different video feeds. Then there's going to be a state kind of in the back end API or SDK that represents what users are in the room and, what users have video feeds, what streams are published, all of that. We don't need to deal with that because obviously that's handled by the SDK. But here we do need to be able to keep track of what users are in our room or not, so we know what streams we should be displaying. Hopefully that kind of makes sense, but at minimum, we want to know how many users are in our room. And so we want to have this users array that's storing all of those users, and so we can get access to their different streams. And so what happens is when a user unpublishes their stream, well, they may have been automatically unsubscribed. We may have auto unsubscribed, but we need to change the state on the React front end to kind of remove that user. And so what this does here is it takes whatever our previous users were from this user state, and then it filters this array. So what this will do is now create a new array that has all of the users in it except for this user right here, the one that unpublished their stream. Okay, so that's it for that. Now we have a few more events that we need to handle. So client.on, and this is going to be user left. So user -left like that. This doesn't need to be async because we're not waiting on a network operation. We're going to take in the user, and then same thing, we're just going to run this set users kind of set state function, whatever you want to call it. So if a user left or if a user unpublished their stream, these are kind of the same thing. Like if a user leaves, they do unpublish their stream, but it's just a different event that occurs. So we need to look for both of them to make sure that we are, removing the users from our front end state. Okay, so now we have all of our event handlers kind of configured here. So those are configured. The next thing that we need to do here is we need to try the following. So we've set our event handlers. So we're going to say try catch. We'll catch an error, and we'll just console.log error just so we can see if an error occurs. And inside of here, what we're going to try is the following. We're going to say try await client.join. What do we want to join? Well, we're going to join config.appid. We are going to pass in the name of our channel, so name, which we'll pass to this asynchronous function right here. And then we're going to say config.token, and we're going to pass null. Now, let me just explain what all of these parameters are here. I mean, all of them are pretty straightforward, but we're passing the app ID, we're passing the name of the channel we want to join, we're passing the token to join that channel, and then this is the UID of the user that's joining the channel. So UID, unique identifier, right? You can see we have a unique identifier for all of our users. If you leave this null, it's going to automatically generate that for you, which is what we want. But you could manually define the ID of the user joining. Maybe there's some reasons why you'd want to do that, but for now we just leave this null. But this parameter here is really the UID. Now it's required, so we have to pass something, so we pass null. But when you pass null, it will automatically generate the UID of the user. Don't have to worry about it too much. Again, it's just kind of the ID of the user. We could set it if we want, but we're not going to do that. Okay, so we've tried that. We've logged the error. The reason we're trying it is because something could go wrong here and we don't want to crash our program. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to say if tracks, we're going to await client.publish. And what we're going to publish is the following. Tracks 0 and tracks 1. Now we could, if we wanted to clean this up, just use the spread operator. I'll just leave it like this so it's very explicit on exactly what we are doing. But what we're checking here is, okay, do we have any tracks? If we have any tracks, this means that our audio and video has been initialized. And so what we can do is we can, what is it? Let's see here, where am I? We can publish it. So this is publishing a stream. So what we've done is we set up all our event listeners. And now, once all those are done and we've joined the channel, we are going to publish our stream to the channel. So anyone else in the channel now that has these event listeners, and every client will have them because, well, that's what we're coding out here, they're going to automatically subscribe to our stream that has been published, and then they will see our stream. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. But at the end of setting up all this stuff, doing all the configurations here and all our event listeners, then we're going to publish the stream. Then after we publish the stream, what we're going to do is we're going to say set ready, or not set ready, sorry, set start equal to true. So we're saying, okay, we've done everything we need to do here. We've set up the event listeners, we've published the stream, and so now we indicate that, hey, we are ready to start. So we say set start. Now let me just go here and make sure. Okay, I just wanted to look at something quickly to make sure I wasn't going off course here. It looks like we're good. Now inside of use effect, but outside of this init right here, because this init is a function, right? What we're going to do is we're going to call this init function. So we're going to say if ready and tracks, then what we'll do is we will try the following. So we're going to try to init with the channel name. Otherwise, we're going to catch an error. We're just going to console.log it. So console.log error, and sorry, we need to console.log the error message. Actually, we can just log the error. It's an object, but we can look at the object in our console. Okay, so what we've just done, right, is we've set up this kind of init asynchronous function. Then what we're doing is we're waiting for ready to be equal to true and for our tracks to be there. So we have some tracks essentially. So really what that means is we're waiting for the user to give us permission to access their microphone and their camera. Once we have that, we're going to try to initialize our kind of video stream with the channel name. Now, the reason we're putting in a try, again, is just to be extra safe and to make sure that if something goes wrong, we are good and we have caught that. And actually, what I realize here is that we could remove this try because technically we're trying this entire thing. But I think it's good to have this because this will catch a specific error that happens just when we try to join the channel. So we'll leave that in for right now. And this effect is going to be called, right, whenever ready changes and whenever, client changes, channel name changes, or track changes. But we're only going to call this huge kind of function that we made here, so let init equal async, when ready and tracks have both been initialized. Okay, so we've done all that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to set up what we're actually rendering on the screen. So we're going to return, and what we will return here is a grid. So we're using Material UI. This is going to be a container. The direction of our grid is going to be a column, and we just need to make sure that we set the height of this. So we're going to say style is equal to, and then this is going to be height, and we just need to manually set this to 100%. Okay, so we now need to close the grid, so /grid. Now inside of this grid, what do we want to do? Well, we want two grid items here. So we're going to say grid, and then this is going to be an item that is inside of our grid. We're going to say style is equal to, and then we're going to again manually set the height of this. So we're going to say height, colon, and then 15%. Now, if any of you guys know some better CSS than this to, set heights and do dynamic sizing and all of that, please do let me know. I'm not very good at CSS, so I am just using what I can to make this look half decent. So sorry, the height of this is going to be 5%, and the height of this is going to be 95%. Now, you're probably like, what the heck are you doing, Tim? Well, what I'm doing is I'm going to be rendering the controls and then actually the video, right? So remember I told you this component handles all of this kind of annoying connection-related stuff. But then what we are going to do is we are going to render all the videos, and we're going to render all of the controls, which are going to be in two separate components. And so that's what we're going to do here. All right, so inside of this 5%, this is where we're going to put our controls. So we're going to check if ready and tracks, and then what we're going to do is render the following if both of those are true. So we're going to say ready and tracks, and then we're going to render the component controls. We've not defined this yet, but we will define this later. I'm just going to hard code it for now. We're going to say tracks is equal to tracks. We're going to say set start is equal to start. And then we're going to say set in call is equal to set in call. All right, I don't think there's anything else we need to pass there. Those are the props for that component. All right, so ready and tracks and then this. So essentially just saying, okay, when we're ready and we have our tracks, we'll display the controls. Then inside of here, we're going to do a similar thing. I'm going to copy this, paste it, but rather than ready, we're going to put start. So you're going to say start. And then rather than having controls, what we're going to have is simply our videos. So we're just going to say videos. We're going to pass the tracks, but we're also going to pass the users. So we're going to say users like that is equal to users. And then I think that's actually all we need here. So let's close that. Okay, so I know, again, probably confusing. I'm even confusing myself. There's a lot of code that we need to write here, but we're just going to only show the controls and then the video when the corresponding variables are true, right? So once we're ready and once we are starting. Okay, so just because we have two variables here, ready and start, I'm just going to stop and explain what these are just to make sure this is clear. So what's the difference between ready and start? Okay, so start essentially is telling us we can now view other people's videos. So we have these events set up. So once we set up these events, what we can do is we can view other people's videos, right? Once we've joined the channel. However, we may not have published our video yet. So it seems a little bit confusing. The thing is, we're setting start equal to true, regardless of the fact that we publish the video or not. Because if we do not have any tracks, if we have not given permission to our camera or whatever, or for some reason we just don't have any tracks to display, then we can still view other people's videos, but we are not going to publish ours. And so that's why we're setting start. However, we should only show controls for our video if we have a video, right? So once our video is ready and we have our tracks, then we can disable and enable our video. But we want to still be able to view other people's videos before that point is ready. So hopefully that kind of makes sense, but that's the difference. Like ready is telling us our video is good. Start is saying, okay, we can now view other people's videos. So yeah, that's the core difference there. I get that that's probably a bit confusing, but anyways, that's the way that we're going to do this here. And a lot of this code I've just taken from official documentation from Agora, just to make that crystal clear. I did not come up with all this stuff off the top of my head. Okay, so now that we have that, we need to code out these two components, controls and videos, right? So let's start with controls because I feel like that's the most intimidating one. So we'll get the easy stuff done after we do this. Okay, so let's make a new file here and let's call this one controls.js. Oh, I already made controls.js, one step ahead of myself. Now what we're going to do is import a few things that we need. So we're going to say import, it's going to be use state. This will be from and React. Then we want to import use client, and this will be from and then /settings like that. Perfect. Then we want to import grid. So we're going to say import grid button and icon from, and this is going to be at material-ui/core. Okay, perfect. And then what we actually need to do now is we need to import a bunch of icons. Now I'm going to copy all of these. So let's copy them all right now. Okay, so mic icon, mic off icon, video cam off icon, exit to app icon. I don't think I need to explain why we need these icons. I mean, they're going to just be the icons we have for our different buttons. And now I realize that we need to install the material UI/icons package. So what we're going to do is just type npm install material UI/icons at material UI/icons. Okay, this is going to take a second. Once it is done, I will be right back. All right, so now we have material UI icons installed. Now we're going to start coding out this component. So export default function controls, take in some props like that. Okay, we're going to use our client. So const client is equal to use client like that. Const and then tracks set start and set in call is equal to props. Perfect. And then const track state set track state is equal to use state. And this is going to have two things. It's going to have video true and audio true. Okay, perfect. Let me make sure that's correct. I think that's all we need. Nice. Okay, now we have all those things initialized. What I'm going to do now is just code out what this is actually going to look like, right? So we're going to say return. And now it's going to be a little bit of HTML madness going on here where we make a grid and we place some buttons and some icons. Essentially, I want 3 buttons, right? I want the button to turn off the mic, the button to turn off the camera, and the button to leave the call. So I'm going to say grid, container, spacing equals 2. If you're unfamiliar with this, you can reference the Material UI documentation. But what this does for us is set up a nice grid using, I believe it's called Flexbox. So this just kind of has some default CSS classes for us. So rather than me having to go through and write all the CSS, we can just use this grid. So, it's kind of as it explains. By default, a grid is going to be in a row size. So we're going to have things showing up horizontally on the screen. But I think you saw previously, I think I did it here. I set up a grid that was the direction column, so things were going vertical in the screen. Anyways, that's the difference. Column is vertical, grid is horizontal. Okay, now we're going to set up some grid items. So we're going to say grid, item. Notice that items go inside of containers, right? So we'll have 2 grid items. Actually, we'll have 3 grid items, sorry. So 3 grid items, and inside of each of these items, we're going to have some buttons. Now, of course, align item center. It's going to put all of our items in the center of the grid, which is what we want. Now we're going to have a button. This is going to be the variant, which is equal to contained. There's a few other variants. Again, you can find all this stuff in the Material UI documentation. It's not super important, so I won't really cover it. We're going to have the color. The color is going to be equal to dynamically red or blue, depending on if the audio is on or off, right? So this button, the first button here, is going to be for our mic. So we'll have the color that is equal to track state dot audio. And if the track state dot audio is on, so if that's true, then we're going to show the color primary, which means blue, right? And then we are going to show the color secondary, which is kind of like a red color. Again, look at Material UI documentation if you want to see all of this. Okay, so we have our button. Now this button is going to be called, I guess, actually, we're not going to have a name for this button, so we're just going to put an icon for it. So we have 2 icons, right? We have mic icon and mic off icon. So depending on the same condition here, if the audio is on, then we want to show that the audio is on. Otherwise, we want to show that it's off. So there's 2 icons we can show here. The first icon we will show is the mic icon if the audio is on. Otherwise, we will show, I'll just copy this and change it to, I think it's called the mic off icon. Mic off icon, let's see. Yeah, that looks like that is what it's called. Okay, sweet. So we're going to show the mic on if the audio is on, otherwise mic off. All right, so now what I need to do is add an on click here. So I'm going to say on click, and this is going to be an arrow function. So on click is equal to an arrow function, and this is going to call another function that we've yet to define called mute. It's going to pass in audio. Now what mute is going to take is audio or video, so the string audio or video. If you pass it audio, then it will mute the audio, otherwise it'll mute the video, right? Pretty straightforward. Okay, so let's copy this button because the next ones are going to be almost identical. Let's put 2 more here. And this time, rather than having audio, we're going to do video. So we'll just change all of this to say video like that. And the icons need to change too. This all got to change to video. Now we're going to use video cam icon and video cam off icon. Okay, so let's change this to video cam icon, and this will be video cam off icon. Sweet. Just notice I changed everything to video. Okay, so now our last button is going to be the leave button. So what this is going to have is it's just going to say leave like that, and then we will actually have an icon beside leave. I think that the leave icon is not super intuitive, and so I want to add some text there as well. Okay, now we will just use the exit to app icon. That's like a little, you'll see what it looks like, but it just looks like you're leaving. That's why I picked it. Okay, so now for the color for this one, it's not going to be dynamic. It'll just be the same because once you press that button, you're going to leave it. We're going to call this default, and then this is going to call a function called leave channel like that. Now we actually need to call it, so there you go. Okay, so now we have all of our buttons. So again, contained, default, we're calling the leave channel function, which we'll define in a minute. And I realized that we no longer need this icon. Thought we were going to use that, but I guess you can just define the icon like this. Okay, so now let's write out those 2 functions. So we need that mute function and we need that leave channel. Leave channel is easiest, so we'll start with that. So we'll say const leave channel is equal to async, and then yeah, that will be brackets like that. And inside of here, we're going to say await client dot. Can you guess what it is? It's leave. Pretty straightforward, just leaves the chat. Then what we want to do after this, we need to remove all of the event listeners. So we're going to say remove all listeners. So if we go back to video call, see how we set up all of these on whatever event listeners. What this does is it just removes them to make sure that we don't have all of these kind of lingering event listeners when we've already left the channel. Okay, then what we want to do is we want to close our audio and video tracks. So we're going to say tracks 0 dot close and tracks 1 dot close. Remember, one of these will be audio, one of them will be video. I can't remember which one's which, but it doesn't really matter because we kind of do the same thing for both of them. And then we're going to say set start is equal to false and set in call equal to false. Perfect. Okay, so now we've done the leave channel. Next thing we want to do is mute. So we're going to say const mute is equal to async. This needs to be asynchronous because we're going to wait on a network operation here, just like this one was async as well, right? So we're going to take in a type. So the type is going to be either audio or video. Then depending on what it is, we'll disable that audio track or video track. So we're going to say if type is equal to audio, then what we want to do is say await, and it's going to be tracks 0. So there you go. 0 is going to be the audio track dot set enabled, and we're just going to set it equal to, or set enabled, sorry, to whatever the opposite of its current state is. So we're going to say track state dot audio, not track state dot audio. So essentially, you know, if this is true, if audio is playing, then we're going to set it to false. Otherwise, set it to true. I think you guys get the idea. Then after that, we're going to say set track state like that. And we're going to take in whatever the previous state was. So that's PS, previous state. And we are going to return a new object with the previous state, but this time with audio equal to, and this will be not ps.audio. Okay, we're going to do almost the exact same thing for video. So let's just copy it, go down here. We could change this one to else if we're feeling creative here. So it goes to else if. Now this can go to video, make this tracks 1 rather than track state.audio. You guessed it, it's going to be video. Now rather than audio, this is going to be video. So not ps.video. Okay, there we go. We are now finished the mute function, finished the leave channel function, and we are done with this component. Okay, so this component's good. Now we need to do the video component. This one is a little bit simpler than the other one. Yeah, it's actually not too much that we need to do here. I'm just going to take a quick break here and review some of this code to make sure we haven't made any major flaws or mistakes, and I'll be right back. All right, so we are all good. We are now going to do the video component. Now, I apologize that we can't really run the app right now. We just have to code a ton because we can't really see anything functioning until all of this stuff is done. Kind of sucks, but at the same time, it's fine. Let's just get all the code done, and then we can enjoy the application after. All right, so what we're going to do now is we are going to import the Agora, and this is going to be the video player from the wrapper we installed. So Agora-RTC-React. Wonderful. Then we are going to import the grid from, and this is going to be at material-UI/core, and then we're going to import, oops, let's go next line here. Going to import use state and use effect from React. Nice. Okay, let's make our component export. Default function video props, and let's define some state, or sorry, let's grab some stuff from our props. So we want users and we want tracks. Remember, we pass these through the props to video. This is equal to props. We're then going to say const. This is going to be grid spacing, set grid spacing. You'll see why we need this in a second, but the idea here is that in our grid, in our material UI grid, we have 12 potential positions for items in the grid. So if you're looking at the grid in terms of horizontally, right? So like width of the screen, you can have 12 items in a grid. So the thing is, we can define how much space an item uses in our grid out of 12. So to start, when it's just one person in the room, they'll take up the entire grid, right? They'll take up all 12 squares in the grid. But as more people join, we need to shrink them. So we need something representing our grid spacing, and we'll have this set to 12 to start, and then we'll divide it. So we'll divide 12 by the number of users in our room to define how much space each person in the grid's taking up. Now, as soon as someone starts taking up like less than a certain amount of space, we will increase the size of the grid vertically. So we'll fill up specifically 3 people in one row. And then as soon as 3 people are in one row, we'll automatically move down to the next row. And that's why we're using this grid, because grid is really easy to do this in. And you'll see it's not super complicated, but we just need to define, how much space each person's taking up. Okay, so we're going to define use effect now. Inside of use effect, we're going to say set grid spacing, and we're going to set the grid spacing equal to the math.maximum of the math.floor. This is just to avoid any, floating point division. And we're going to say 12 divided by our users dot length plus 1. Now, the reason we're doing this is because we are a user, and technically our users does not define ourselves. So we have users.length plus 1 to represent that, hey, we're in the grid too. And then after this, what we do is we're going to define in the max function, right? 4. So we're going to say, okay, if we have 12 users, we don't want each user only taking up 1 grid square. We want them taking up 4. So if we have actually less than 3 users here, then we'll take whatever this division is. Otherwise, we're going to take 4. So hopefully you guys can understand that math there, but this is just a dynamic way to do it. And then we're only going to do this effect whenever the users change or the tracks change. So if we disable a track, right, then we'll stop showing ourselves in the grid. Actually, sorry, we're not going to stop showing ourselves, but someone else will stop seeing us. And anyways, you'll see how it works, but technically a user could disable their mic without leaving the chat, right? And so not mic, video. So if they disable their video, but they haven't left the room yet or left the channel, then we want to stop showing them in the grid. We could show them with a black screen. If you wanted to do that, then you would just remove tracks from right here, but I don't want to do that, so I'm going to do it this way. Okay, so now all we have to do is just return whatever we're going to render here. So I'm going to return, I'm going to make my grid and say grid. This is going to be item and container. Actually, sorry, this should just be container. Grid container. This is going to be style equal to, and we need to set the height of this as well. So we're going to say height 100%. Now, any of you guys that are better at me at CSS are like, why are you setting the height to 100%? Well, unfortunately, this Agora video player here, I was having some difficulties with it. I'm sure some of you guys that are smarter than me can figure this out, but pretty much I realized that I just need to set the height of everything to be 100%. Otherwise, this has a height of 0. So my limited knowledge of CSS tells me that the parent of this is what the size of this thing is going to be. And so if the parent doesn't have a defined height, if it's not set to some specific height, then this is just going to be a height of 0, because usually what happens is your container will take up the amount of space that the children are taking up, right? If the child's a height 100, then the container here will be height 100. But in this case, the Agora video player gets its height from the height of the container that it's in. And so we need to set the height of the container, which is annoying, but we can figure it out. And that's actually the reason why here we have the root being equal to 100 vertical height. The reason I had to do that is because we need to have somewhere some absolute height. In this case, 100 VH is actually going to kind of stand for a pixel value. So VH is like the number of pixels, the vertical height of the screen, right? And so we're saying 100% of the vertical height. And so really this will be equal to some pixel value. And so that means that when we set all of the divs going down to 100% height, they'll all be equal to that height as well. And so eventually when we get to video, our containers that are storing these videos will be able to actually have a height. I'm sure no one understands what I just said there, but that's my rationale. Just wanted to explain that so that you guys don't think I'm too crazy. Okay, now we're going to make our grid items. So this item is going to have spacing, which is equal to grid spacing. So in case you're unfamiliar with how you do this, XS stands for extra small. You have MD, I think, or M or something that stands for medium. You have LG, which stands for large. I think you have like XLG or, yeah, something like that. You'd have to look it up exactly on the Material UI documentation. But what I'm doing right here is saying, okay, when the screen is size extra small or larger, we are going to have this item taking up this number of grid spacing squares. And we're setting that in this state variable, right? So whatever we get from this math here, that's how much space is going to be taken up by this grid item. So anyways, that's the rationale there. XS is just saying, okay, take up this much space in the grid. Now you could define like when the grid is larger, take up less space or take up more space. But when you just set XS, this automatically sets it for all the other ones too. So if you set XS for a medium-sized screen or for a small-sized screen or for a large-sized screen, it will set the spacing the same, but you can individually define what you want the spacing to be for all different types of screens. Okay, so again, reference the Material UI documentation. I'm going to keep saying that, but if you guys have made it this far, I think you'll be able to look through the documentation and figure that out pretty easily. Okay, we're going to have two grid items here. So we have this grid item, and then we're going to have another grid item. Now, the first grid item here, inside of here, we're going to put an Agora video player. Now, this is going to be us. So we're going to say Agora video player. When I say us, I mean like whoever is the client, it's going to be their video. The other stuff that I'll show you in a second will be everyone else's video. So it'll be Agora video player. And then we need to define a few things in here. So we're going to say that the video track is equal to, and then this is going to be tracks 1. Our video track, right? So tracks 1. And then we're going to say that the style is equal to, and this is mandatory. You need to put this. If you don't put this, it's not going to work. Height, 100%. Width, 100%. Now, if you want this to be smaller, of course, adjust these values. You can make them pixels too. But to make it dynamic, you want it to be a percentage. So we're going to say height 100%, width 100%. So fill the entire size of this grid container. Okay, so now we have another grid. But what I want to do is I want to generate a grid item for every single user's video feed. So what I need to do here is I need to map all of my users to a grid item. So I'm going to say users.length is greater than 0 and users.map. And I'm going to take in a user. And then what I'm going to do is return if the user has a video track. So if user.video track like that, I am going to return the following. Now I realize curly bracket here. So put a curly bracket there, put another one here, and we are going to return a grid item. So let's grab that grid item. Let's put it here. Let's save. Let me see what it's showing us is wrong here. Okay, so I just have my bracket in the wrong order here. Just got to put a bracket there. And I think that's good now. Yeah, okay, there you go. So now we're good. So now inside of this grid item, we can put what we want. So it's going to, again, be an Agora video player. So let's copy that. It's going to have the height of 100 and 100. And then what we're going to have is the video track, which is equal to, rather than tracks 1, user.videotrack. Okay, so it's equal to user.videotrack. And then what we want to do here is we want to also have a key. Now, whenever you use like a map, which is what we're doing here in React, every child object is supposed to have a unique key. So in this case, the key is going to be user.uid. This is just so that you don't get screamed at in the console. Okay, now otherwise though, because we have this if, right, we need to have something else. So we're going to say else return no. So just don't do anything. So essentially, if we have no users, just don't do anything. You can just stop. Now, what is wrong here? What is this saying? I think this should be good. Okay, yeah, so I don't know. I think VS Code was glitching out because this is fine. Okay, so that, in theory, is all we need to do, except for a few very small things in app.js. So let me zoom out here just so you guys can see this. I'll go through the files for 1 second so you guys can look at all of them. But again, I have all this stuff in a GitHub repo, so feel free to check that out from the link in the description. Okay, so this is video. This is controls, although it's kind of large, so I can like scroll through it a little bit so you guys can see it. This is video call. Okay, and this is app.js. All right, so let's continue here. We're going in app.js. Now we need some way to actually enter into our video call room. So what we are going to do is we're going to make a button here. So we're just going to say import, and we're going to import a button from, and this is going to be at material UI/core. And we're just going to put a button above this. We're going to change this, right? So that's something else. We're going to put a button, and this button will be a variant equal to contained. Its color will be equal to primary, and then we'll have an onClick. Say onClick is equal to, this will be an arrow function. What the arrow function is going to do is it's going to call set in call equal to true. Okay, and then here we're going to say join call like that. And then if we are in the call, what we are going to do is we are going to render the video call components. We're going to say video call like that. And then we need to pass to this video call component set in call as a prop. So set in call is equal to set in call. Okay. We need to import this video call component. So we're going to say import video call from /video call. And now we're going to run the app and we're going to see how many errors we made. Now, I'm not super optimistic just because that's a lot of code we wrote without testing it. But let's start the application and let's see if this actually works. All right, so as I suspected, we have a few errors. First error is go to VideoCall.js. We have to put dot before this settings.js import. It was saying we couldn't find it because we didn't have that dot. Now you can see there's other errors popping up in video call, which is right here. We forgot to import controls and videos. So let's do that. We're going to import videos from ./videos. Make sure you have ./. And then we're going to import, what was the other one we needed? Controls from ./controls. Controls, not control. Okay, let's see what error we get now. Okay, cannot resolve videos. So this is video, not videos. Nice, just messing up the plurals. Okay, videos is not defined. Yes, that would make sense if we go down here. I've called this videos when this is actually just called video. Okay, compiled with warnings. That's good. Warnings are always good because they're not errors. Okay, so now let's go here and let's refresh. Okay, so it says join call, waiting to join call. One of the prettiest UIs you've seen, I know. Okay, so let's press join call. And now look, it says use your camera. Who wants to use your camera? So we'll press allow. Should ask me for the microphone too. Okay, so now it's showing me all of the controls, but it's not showing the video. Now, I think I know why, but let's go to the console here and see. So failed prop type align items of grid must be used on container. Okay, failed prop type spacing of grid. Warning, receive true for a non-Boolean attribute container. Okay, and we go through here. Everything else actually looks like it's kind of working. Now, the video, I believe we're just not seeing right now. And I'm going to show you how we can see that in 1 second. This is actually a decent start considering the amount of code that we wrote. Okay, so let's go back here and let's fix a few things. Now, and actually, let's just press these buttons and see if they work. Okay, they do work. You can see that they toggle back and forth. And then if you press leave, set start is not a function. That's fine. We'll fix that in 1 second. Okay. Okay, so I'm not necessarily tackling these errors in the order in which we saw them, but first error here, line 73 in video call. This needs to say set start, not start. So I'm not sure if we saw this, but when you press the leave button, it didn't work because we apparently could not set start because, well, we didn't have set start. So it was in video call.js, line 73, make this set start. Now, the other error we were getting here was related to the fact of our grid. So it said align items and spacing are not valid things here for our grid. Oh, maybe it's I have container equals true. I don't know where I would have done that. Container equals true. Let's try this. Container equals true. Can we just look for container? Okay, container here, container here. Okay, it's saying something about container equal true. Let me look into this and then I will be right back. All right, so very silly error here, just a typo. So if you go to line 39, you see I had container. It should be container like that. And then that should fix our UI. So again, line 39, change that to container rather than the typo that I made, although I'm sure you guys would have fixed that anyways. Okay, so let's press join call. And now notice that it joins. Now, the join button is not disappearing, which we need to fix, but we can see that our menu buttons, or whatever you want to call them, controls, at least they're showing up nicely. Now, if we press leave, that does work because we fixed that. So let's do a few more changes here. So let's go to app.js and let's make it so we only see this button if we're not in the call, right? So rather than saying waiting to join call, let's just put the button right there. There we go. That will have fixed that error for us. Now what we need to do is make it so we actually see our videos. Now I am actually certain that the video is appearing. I know that seems like a lie because you can't see it, but it's because we haven't set the height of one of the divs that I remember I forgot to do. So if we go, actually, I don't think it's here. No, it wouldn't be in controls. I believe it would be in VideoCall. We have the container height equal to 100. We have this height equal to 95. But if we go to app.js, notice how we did not set the height of this div. So what we actually need to do here is need to say style equals, and then height, colon, and then this should be 100%. Okay, so if I do this now, I believe this should work for us. Could be incorrect, but let's try this. So if I press join call, let's see. Okay, I can see my webcam turning on, and there we go. I can now see myself on the screen. So notice how I'm taking up the entire screen when it's just me in the call, right? So this is very good. We've actually done a lot of what we need to do. Now, if I stop the video, notice it turns off, right? And if I stop the mic, then you would stop hearing it. Now, the thing is, you can actually test if the mic is working by joining in another tab, which is exactly what I'm going to do. So what I'm going to do here is just copy this, go to another tab here and paste it, localhost colon 3000. And you'll see now when I join this that another thing will pop up. So when I press join a call, you'll see now there's two of me, right? And notice that the one on the left is mirrored in a different way than the one on the right. The reason for that is when it's showing you yourself, it's different than when it's showing it to someone else, right? Kind of like looking in a mirror. So you can see like how it's all kind of, wonky and weird, and like you can do stuff like that. Anyways, that's because the one on the left is you. Like if I do this, notice how it shows a black screen. But then if you go over here, then we can see the other two people. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is just show you, if I stop the camera here and I go back here, notice it's just showing me now. The reason it's just showing me is because here I stopped the camera. And so since I stopped the camera, it's not showing the other person because their camera is off. So let's join from another tab. So when I join another tab, just press join call. Notice now that's going to show two people because one person's camera is off. If I go here, it's showing three though. The reason it's showing three is because there's three people in the call and this is my camera, which is off. Now, if I turn this back on and I go here, you can see there's three people. Now let's see what happens if I join again. So if I join one more time, so we join a fourth time. Okay, it's showing up still in the grid. This isn't what I wanted to happen, actually. I'm going to see how to fix this in 1 second. Okay, let's join one more time, though. Just test this out. Okay, so if we join a fifth time, now it's showing 5 people. Okay, so something is going wrong a little bit that we need to fix. So let's leave the call. You don't actually have to press leave call. You can just manually leave, and it should work. But regardless, hopefully you guys are happy with this, at least so far, because that's pretty cool, and that took us a long time to make. Okay, so let's fix this. Let's go to video.js, and let's fix our spacing here for this grid. So I am a little bit confused why it's not showing us the correct spacing here. I think I may have messed something up here. So I'm just going to reference some of my other code, have a look at this, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have found the issue here. One missing bracket always seems to do it, eh? So I need to put this bracket here at the very end. So I had 3 brackets here when there's supposed to be another one here. And so like the math was just incorrect here on set grid spacing. So that's why the grid spacing was all messed up. Okay, so I think that was all I needed to fix, actually. I'm trying to think if there was anything else, but I think that's it for now. Okay, so let's go back here and let's join the call. Okay, give it a second. Shows me. Okay, let's join again. Press join call. Okay, there we go. Now we see 2 people. We're just gonna have to test it with 4 people to see if it works. Okay, join. There's 3 of us. Okay, join. And always forget I have to press join call. And now notice how the grid goes down, right? So now notice how it's showing more people. And obviously, like as you expand this, you're gonna see more of each person because it's cropping the camera as you're like resizing the window, right? If I go really small, you can see obviously not the most responsive design in the world, but at least it shows everybody. Okay, let's just join one more time, just because I know you guys want to see my face again in the grid here. Okay, there you go. All right, let's join a 6th time, and boom, there you go. Now you can see 6 of me. And obviously, you can stop your camera, right? And then if you go here, there's only gonna be 5 people in the grid, and you guys can mess around with this as you please. Okay, so let's close all of these. Just leave, 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 and leave. Beautiful. Okay, so now that we've done that, I want to show you how we can connect this application to a public URL that anyone can access. Because right now we can only do this on our local area network. If I'm not connected to this network and I try to access that, well, it's not going to work. Okay, so remember I was telling you that we need to download ngrok. That's what we're going to do now. So go to the internet, search ngrok, link will be in the description, by the way, and just download this. Now, if you already downloaded this, that's great, but you're going to press get started for free. Going to obviously download for your operating system. This is going to download a zip folder. Now, what you need to do is you need to take the file out of the zip folder. There's going to be a file. It's called ngrok.exe inside of the zip folder. Take it out, drag it somewhere else. Easiest place to put it to your desktop. You can put it wherever you want, okay? Then what you need to do is you need to navigate to the directory that you have this file in from your terminal or from your command prompt. So a little shortcut on Windows here. If you open up Windows Explorer and you type cmd into the path that you want to open. So see, I'm on my desktop, right? I'm on my desktop. If I go here and I type cmd, it's going to open up a command prompt that is in my desktop. So you can see that I'm on desktop, right? Users Tim desktop, that's the path. Obviously, you guys probably know how to change directories using CD, so you can do it that way too. But anyways, what you want to do is just get into the directory where you have this ngrok file, not the zip folder, the file. It could be the same directory, but you got to take that file out of the zip folder. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to CD into Agora, because my file is somewhere else. And now inside of here, I think I can do this. You can see that I have the ngrok.exe file. Now, dir just tells you all the files and directories that are in the current directory. And so I have ngrok.exe. So what you're going to do here is you're going to type ngrok.exe, but before it, you type actually, yeah, we'll see if that works. /ngrok.exe. You're going to type HTTP, and then you're going to type 3000. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to give you a public URL that points to your computer's port 3000. And so that means that anyone else can access your web server, which is running on port 3000. That's why I'm typing 3000, because that's where React is running from this URL. So let's press enter. And okay, / is not recognized as an internal external command. If you're on Mac or Linux, you can do that. If you're on Windows, you just type ngrok.exe, HTTP space 3000 or whatever port your React app's running on. And then what you're going to see here is it's going to give you these two forwarding addresses, right? I think they're actually just the exact same. So what you can do now is you can copy this URL, okay? And make sure you take the HTTPS one, actually. You need to do this on HTTPS. If you do this on HTTP, it's not going to work. You need HTTPS. Just remember that. See how this expires in 2 hours? That's what I was talking about, the expiry. You can just restart the command after 2 hours and you'll get a new URL. But this one's going to, expire after that amount. So what I'm going to do now is go to my web browser and I'm going to paste this. Okay, so when I paste this, you can see brings me to my website, right? So this is a public URL. Anyone can access this. Give this to anyone, friends, family, whatever. Do it from your phone and press join call. It's going to ask you to allow this because it's a new URL. So I'm going to allow it. And there you go. See, working totally fine. Now, even if I go to localhost, so I go localhost :3000 and I join the call here, you're going to see that this works. So even though they're on two different URLs, it's the exact same thing because this URL is just pointing to localhost. So that's what ngrok does. And that's really all I need to show you. That's pretty much going to conclude this video. So obviously here you can disable the microphone, turn on the camera, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I guess that's really all I needed to say. Okay, so yeah, that's going to conclude this video right here. I apologize if this was kind of all over the place, but that's just, what happens when you work on a really large project like this. Hopefully this got you guys up and running with Agora and got your React video web calling application working. This was a really fun project for me to work on, and I'm happy I was able to share it with you guys. So one last thank you to Agora for sponsoring this video. Let's actually head over to their website here. This is a really cool platform. As you guys saw, we're able to do all of this stuff for free. I didn't pay for this. They didn't give me like a higher level account or anything like that. The documentation is actually really good. And as I was saying, you can create so many different cool things, right? Live streaming, video call, voice call, recording, real-time messaging. You can look at all the analytics. So if I go to my dashboard here, which I'm on, and I go to products and usage, you'll see that you can see exactly how many minutes you've used, your HD, full HD, 2K, 2K plus resolution video, whatever. And then you can see in like what channels and stuff. And there's more, analytics that you can look at as well. Just kind of giving you an idea that this is what you can do on the platform. All right, so that is going to conclude this video. I hope you guys found this helpful. If you did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and one last thank you to Agora for sponsoring this video.